I always knew betrayal would come from someone I loved. I just didn't think it would happen over Zoom. There were 10 faces on the screen, and mine was the only one not smiling. The meeting was supposed to be about quarterly reports. Instead, my uncle started with a fake cough, a paper shuffle, and the words that shattered everything. "We've decided to make some leadership changes. Effective immediately, we're eliminating your role." He said it like he was reading a weather report. My cousin Daniel nodded solemnly. My aunt blinked with fake sympathy. Even my own mother was there, silent, eyes lowered like she couldn't look at me. I sat frozen, watching my life evaporate in 1080p. "Wait, what?" I said, confused. "Why? What are you talking about?" "There's no easy way to say this." My uncle replied, "But we've outgrown your position. We need to modernize, streamline. I'm the one who built the back end. I run the treasury system. You're literally using the database I designed." "It's nothing personal," Daniel cut in. "It's just business." When I didn't respond, I heard it. The sound that changed everything. A laugh. Soft but cruel. One of them, maybe. Two, actually laughed when I blinked too hard and my voice cracked, like it was funny to see me break. "Don't cry," someone muttered, chuckling. "Come on." And then, they logged off one by one. Just like that. No thank you, no warning, no soul. The screen went black. The room around me was silent, except for the buzz of my laptop fan and the ringing in my ears. But they made one mistake. They thought I'd just cry and disappear. They didn't know that I was the only person with full admin rights to the company's treasury accounts. I stared at the monitor. My fingers didn't hesitate. I opened the bank portal, I typed in the passphrase, and with one click I froze every single transaction, payroll, vendor transfers, quarterly filings, disbursement queues, everything. The company wasn't just bleeding anymore. It was paralyzed, and I was the one holding the oxygen. The first alert came an hour later, a flagged vendor payment. Then, 3 more. By the end of the day, 20 scheduled transfers had failed. I knew they'd notice. I just didn't expect the panic to be so immediate. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Missed calls from Daniel, from my uncle, even from my mom. None of them left voicemails. They didn't want a record of what they were about to say. But I didn't answer anyway. I logged into the Treasury portal again, watched the error messages stack up like dominoes. ACH transfer failed. Wire, return, payment blocked. The company, their company now, had effectively gone into cardiac arrest. I sat in my living room in silence, watching them implode through nothing but data. By midnight, I received an email from a private company attorney. Professional tone, fake warmth. He wanted to clarify a few things and cooperatively restore access. I didn't respond. I wasn't done yet. Instead, I downloaded a full copy of the transaction logs from the last 18 months. Not just the routine operations, but every disbursement, every untagged expense, every line item labeled as consulting. What I found made my stomach turn. Dozens of irregular transfers to shell vendors. Suspicious wireouts just under federal. Reporting thresholds. Reimbursements without documentation. All routed through an LLC I'd never heard of before. That LLC was registered to a UPS box 3 states away. I traced the payment trail. The money was going into personal accounts tied to my cousin Daniel. They hadn't just fired me to restructure. They'd fired me to bury the theft, and I'd just frozen the evidence in place. I reached out to Amelia, a lawyer I knew from college who'd gone into financial crimes litigation. I sent her the files, then sat back and waited. When she called me the next morning, her voice was sharper than I remembered. "Elena, what you sent me is enough to trigger both a civil suit and federal interest. How soon can you come in?" "I'm already in the car." As I drove, my email pinged again. this time with an internal memo accidentally CC'd to my inactive address. A frantic note from Daniel to the family board. She has the access. We need to fix this before she finds the pass-through accounts. Too late. By the time I pulled into Amelia's office, she had a binder waiting. Inside, a roadmap of what I had to do next. Step 1. File for whistleblower protection. Step 2. Issue a cease and desist. Step 3. Decide how far I wanted to. Take this. I told her I wanted everything. My phone buzzed again. A new message from my mom. Just one sentence. You're hurting us. But she hadn't said a word during the Zoom call. She hadn't stopped them. I wrote back, then you should have stopped laughing. I hit send and opened the Treasury portal one more time. Every dollar was still frozen, and the family was finally feeling it. Amelia didn't waste time. Within 24 hours, she filed a preliminary injunction to prevent the company from transferring assets without my co-signature. The court approved it. Just like that, I had legal standing to block any financial decision the family tried to make. Next, we filed a notice to preserve all internal communications. If they deleted anything now, it would count as destruction of evidence. I felt the shift instantly. The calls stopped. So did the emails. The silence wasn't peace. It was strategy. That same day, I received an anonymous email. No subject. Line, no signature. Just a link. I clicked it from a clean machine. It led to a private drive containing internal documents from the company's HR department. Resignation letters, whistleblower complaints, memos about unexplained fund activity. They'd tried to bury it. But someone inside had seen what I couldn't, and they were on my side. Inside one folder was a scanned copy of an unsigned memo labeled Transfer Authority, Override Protocol. It detailed plans to shift control of the primary accounts to a new signatory, Daniel. The signature line for my removal, dated 2 days before the Zoom call. They hadn't fired me because I was unnecessary. They fired me because I stood in the way, and now I had proof. Amelia's voice was steel when I showed her the file. This isn't just mismanagement, she said. This is premeditated fraud. She called in a forensic accountant. They spent a day analyzing the logs I downloaded. Then they found it. A shadow ledger. An entire set of off-the-book accounts linked to a series of transactions disguised as marketing expenses. Nearly $2 million had been funneled into personal accounts, half of it already spent. The rest? Frozen under my lockdown. I didn't feel rage. I felt clarity. They thought I'd blink first, that I'd be too emotional to keep going, but I wasn't angry. I was surgical now. Amelia sent formal notices to the state's Financial Crimes Division. Quietly. No press. No headlines. Then we drafted an offer. We told the board, surrender Daniel's stake, resign all active executives, and return my voting shares, or face formal prosecution. The response was fast. A hastily arranged Zoom, poetic, considering. This time, I was the one with the smile. Daniel tried to bluster. My uncle pleaded. My mother cried. I let them talk. Then I unmuted and said, you have 48 hours. After that, it's not just a lawsuit, it's federal. And for the first time in weeks, they went completely silent. Not out of arrogance, not out of laughter, but because they knew I meant it. 48 hours passed, and no one called my bluff. Instead, I got a courier envelope on my doorstep. Inside, 3 resignation letters, Daniel's signed release of voting shares, and a single unsigned note that read, this wasn't supposed to happen like this. No apology, no admission of guilt, just surrender. Amelia reviewed the documents and smiled. This is checkmate, but not the end game. We push forward. We expose everything. That's how you take back your father's name. So we did. The audit became an inquisition. Internal emails revealed Daniel had been siphoning funds, For over a year. My uncle approved them. My mother looked the other way. Everyone had a role in keeping me quiet, but the moment they lost control of the money, they lost control of the narrative. We issued a press release. Reyes Holdings would be undergoing full executive restructuring under new leadership, mine. Whistleblowers came forward. A vendor admitted to ghost billing. A former employee submitted texts from Daniel promising him hush money. My inbox filled with thank yous from employees who'd been bullied into silence or quietly pushed out. I wasn't just cleaning house. I was burning down the rot. And then, something unexpected happened. My mom showed up at my office. She stood in the doorway like a ghost, eyes hollow, voice small. "I didn't know what else to do," she said. "They told me it was for your own good." I didn't say anything. I just handed her the audit. Let her read it with her own eyes. When she got to the part where Daniel authorized a transfer using her email, her hands started to shake. "I didn't sign this," she whispered. "No," I said. "But you let them use you." She left without another word. The next morning, she submitted a notarized affidavit, admitting she'd been coerced. That alone sealed the case. Daniel was arrested by the end of the week. Wire fraud, tax evasion, corporate malfeasance. My uncle disappeared from public view, probably somewhere with a burner phone and a regret list a mile long. I reclaimed my father's seat at the board table, not by vote, not by default, but by survival. Because they didn't just try to fire me, they tried to erase me, and I wrote myself back in with ink they couldn't wash away. 3 weeks after Daniel's arrest, the company was still bleeding. Not from the money, but from the silence. People whispered in break rooms. Clients questioned invoices. Vendors called twice a day. I didn't try to soothe them with PR fluff. I did what my father used to do. I showed up early, stayed late, and met every partner face to face. No spin, just the truth. "We're rebuilding," I told them. From the inside out. Amelia and I worked nonstop. We froze every vendor account pending verification. We launched an independent audit firm. We started exit interviews for everyone who had stayed quiet under pressure. What we uncovered went deeper than fraud. There were fake employees on payroll, maintenance budgets spent on flights to Vegas, bonuses approved without board signatures. But worst of all, the scholarship fund. My father's favorite legacy, a program to fund education for the children of warehouse workers, had been drained to under $2,000. It should have had 6 figures. That was the moment I stopped holding back. We filed formal charges against the board members who had signed off. We filed a restitution claim against Daniel's assets. We traced every withdrawal, every shadow LLC, every fake invoice. And then we filed a public statement with the SEC. Reyes Holdings will be operating under full transparency moving forward. We are committed to integrity, employee protection, and restoring every dollar taken from the communities that trusted us. The statement made headlines. So did the next one. Because 2 days later, I fired everyone left on the executive team, including the family lawyer who had sat on that Zoom call and said nothing while they laughed. Then I rehired the receptionist they'd laid off, the security guard they mocked, the bookkeeper they accused of leaking numbers, and I called every employee into the break room. "I'm not here to pretend this didn't happen," I told them. "I'm here because I watched them try to kill a legacy. And now I'm here to make sure we never forget who stopped them." Applause? No. But someone nodded. And someone else whispered, "Thank you." And that meant more. Later that night, as I sat alone at my desk, the Treasury portal blinked on my screen. All accounts, secure, rebuilt, reclaimed. And I realized something. They hadn't just underestimated me. They had forgotten what I built. And now, I was just getting started. The day I unfroze the accounts was the day I rewrote the rules. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about narrative, about memory, about who controlled the story. I sat at the boardroom table, the same one where they'd once whispered plans to push me out, and signed the order reinstating the Reyes Scholarship Fund. Fully funded. Retroactive. The first call I made was to Mrs. Calderon, whose son had dropped out of college when the fund vanished. I told her the check was in the mail. She cried. I did too. The second call was to our staff accountant, who had been forced out 6 months earlier after questioning a discrepancy. I offered him his job back, with a raise. He accepted without hesitation. Piece by piece, I wasn't just rebuilding. I was reshaping everything they broke. Amelia and I formalized a new internal system, dual auth signatures for all high-level disbursements, automated reporting, a rotating audit committee. We gave the people transparency, but the damage still lingered. Suppliers had lost trust. Clients hesitated. Our name, my family's name, had been dragged through mud, and I needed more than reforms to clean it. So I made a decision. We would change our name, not to run from the past, but to mark a new beginning. Reyes Holdings would become Legacy Group, because legacy wasn't just what we inherited, it was what we chose to protect. I announced it in a town hall. 100 employees sat in folding chairs, unsure what to expect. I stood at the front with no script. This company has survived betrayal, corruption, and near collapse, I said. But we're still here, and from today forward, we're not just surviving. We're owning our future. One choice, $1, one truth at a time. They didn't clap immediately, but when they did, it wasn't polite applause. It was real, grounded. Afterward, a junior logistics manager handed me a sticky note. One line. They didn't just fire you. They woke you up. I kept it in my wallet. That night, I logged into the Treasury account for the last time as a solo admin. I added Amelia. Then our accountant. Then an employee elected representative. Because real power isn't control. It's trust shared. And now I was ready to build something no one could steal again. I should have known it wouldn't end quietly. Just when the headlines faded, the reports cleared, and the staff settled into something like peace, the past knocked on the back door. It came in the form of a letter, not an email, a physical envelope, hand-delivered and unmarked. Inside, a single sheet of paper with a familiar signature. My uncle's. It wasn't a confession. It was a warning. You don't know what you've started. You think you've won, but this runs deeper than you realize. I protected you from worse. You opened a door you can't close. I didn't believe a word of it. Until Amelia received a call from a federal investigator, not about our case, but about a parallel one that had been quietly building. Apparently, Reyes Holdings had unknowingly been involved in a wider laundering network. Some of the vendors Daniel used were tied to shell companies under investigation across 3 states. Now I wasn't just a witness. I was a link. Amelia went into damage control mode. We cooperated, turned over records, and launched a fresh internal compliance sweep. But the narrative shifted. News outlets started asking if I'd really had no idea, if I'd benefited, if I was a pawn or a player. It didn't matter that I froze the accounts. They only saw that my name was still on them when the money moved. The same boardroom where I reclaimed my place? It now felt like a spotlight, every glass panel reflecting a new question I couldn't fully answer. Then came the anonymous package, dropped at our building after hours. A flash drive. No note, no explanation. On it, footage of a meeting, grainy, from months ago. Daniel, my uncle. 2 men in suits I didn't recognize, and my name. Spoken like a code word. She's the key. If she gets access to that trust, it's over. We bury it now, or she burns it later. The trust. My father's trust. The one I'd never seen in full. The one his lawyer said had been updated but never finalized. I called the bank that held it, asked for full records. They hesitated. I threatened legal action. 3 hours later, I had it. And there it was, a clause my father had added. 3 weeks before his death. Conditional control to me in the event of breach of ethics by any family member. He'd seen it coming. He knew I might need a weapon. He gave me one. I brought it straight to Amelia. Her eyes lit up. You don't just control the business now. You control the legacy, the name, the capital, the leverage. For a second, I let the power wash over me. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally had the full truth. And this time, I wasn't going to keep any of it secret. The next board meeting wasn't just a formality. It was a reckoning. I walked in with the trust documents in hand, notarized, authenticated, and backed by my father's original estate lawyer. There were no more disputes. For the first time, no one challenged my authority, no side glances, no murmured objections, just silence, the kind that follows surrender. I opened the meeting with a single statement. Today we close a chapter written in betrayal. From now on, this company answers to the truth. Then I laid out the new structure. An oversight committee with rotating seats, half elected by employees, independent auditing every quarter, full transparency on payroll, bonuses, and board votes. I dissolved the Reyes Executive Family Trust and restructured it into the Legacy Foundation, designed to fund education, housing, and local entrepreneurship, including grants for whistleblowers from other companies. The board voted unanimously to approve it, even the ones who once laughed at me. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat, because victory wasn't the point. Integrity was. A week later, I stood in front of the building, the same one I used to walk into as a terrified assistant, and held a plaque bearing my father's original mission statement. It read, "Build with courage, guard with honor, walk away clean." I mounted it next to the company's new logo. Then I turned and walked back inside, not as a survivor, not as a CEO, but as a woman who had taken every ounce of pain and turned it into blueprint. The final moment came later, a letter from the federal investigator. The family had been cleared of active laundering links, thanks to my disclosures and full cooperation. Our name was clean again, but I kept the flash drive. I kept the sticky note. I kept the voice of my father in my head, telling me I'd always been the one who understood the cost of silence. And on the anniversary of the day they tried to erase me over Zoom, I sat at my desk, opened the Treasury portal one last time, and closed the account under my name. I'd proven my point. I didn't need control to keep the power, because now it lived in the walls, the team, the foundation, and the legacy I rebuilt from the ashes they left behind.